Forward. Welcome back to the Context Coaching Podcast. We are joined today by Nick Cunningham, who is the head track and field and cross-country coach at Monterey Peninsula College. Coach, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Super excited to be here.
All right. Well, let's get into it. If you could help us understand who Nick Cunningham is. How did you get into coaching? What's your background there? Take us through the journey.
Absolutely. So my journey really started in high school. That's where I really started to see my coaches and the time they put in and the effort they put in and how much I appreciated them as a mentor, as a student athlete, and just their impact on me. And I realized their importance when it wasn't just my coach. I realized that other coaches from other schools had the same impact, had that same kind of, I didn't want to let them down ever. And so I was really excited to get into that, knew that I wanted to be a coach down the road, be that mentor for athletes, and really just didn't know how to get there. It's one of those things nobody sets, I don't know how many people set out like, I'm going to be a mentor. It's not something that people really do. It's just, you put yourself in that position. So really kind of focused on myself as an athlete and working with those coaches and kind of that was what got me to college. I eventually went to UC Santa Barbara on a track scholarship, and that didn't work out. And so after a year and a half, I came right back to Monterey Peninsula College as a bounce back athlete, played football and redshirted my track season. So kind of was able to go and race some other kind of circuits and tours, and then eventually took a track scholarship up to Boise State University. And that was my first real, let's kind of go and kind of see what's out there. And from there, a family joke came about at UC Santa Barbara that I was fast and the road we were driving on looked like a bobsled track. And, after graduation, maybe I should try out for the bobsled team. And so it turned into this family joke. And once I graduated from Boise State, you sit there and your whole life as a student athlete is mapped out to college graduation. As a track athlete, if you don't go pro, there's nothing else. And so I decided to take it as a graduation gift to myself, as a putting off maybe the future for a little bit longer, and try out for the bobsled team. And flew to New York and just went and tried out. And we did a series of sprints, series of different lifts and stuff. And 18 months later, I went to my first Olympic Games at the 2010 Olympics. And so super, super quick kind of transition into the sport, really, really progressed quickly, right time, right place. And as you'll see in most of my career, that's kind of how it happened. Just really kind of set myself up for a situation, and the timing just happened to be right. And so spent 12 years with Team USA. As an Olympic bobsledder. So I went to the 2010, 2014, and 2018 Olympics, won a national championship with them. And then after the 2018 Olympics, decided that I was going to kind of break into a couple years of coaching. I knew I wanted to kind of set that up, get a couple years. Still had 2022 on the mind, but I was going to take 2 years off to go into coaching. So came back home, had an opportunity at a local high school over at Carmel High School to take over their track and field program, and really was able to build something from the ground up, which is kind of what I was really passionate about. The athletes were there, the support was there, but they just kind of needed somebody to come in with a different mindset and kind of go run with it. And we had a really successful year that first year. Took a 4x1 for the first time ever relay team to state. We took a high jumper to state. And then the following year, we're looking at having all those athletes back, and the pandemic hit. And so that was a rough one for us because we felt like we were just getting kind of started. But what that allowed me to do was kind of branch out, not be kind of pigeonholed into that one sport and just be known as a track and field coach. So really what I was doing was I was coaching the football team at the high school. That was the fall. Winter, I was going back and coaching Team USA. I was able to go back and coach their development programs and their World Cup team. throughout Europe and North America. And then I would coach track in the spring. So I was really fortunate with that. And then when the pandemic hit, everything kind of stopped and I had a lot of free time. And I live in a 250 square foot studio in Carmel, and I had to get out. So a lot of athletes were still kind of looking for opportunities. I didn't want to do big group stuff because I didn't want to put kids or different, collegiate athletes in a bad situation. So I was really into that one-on-one training and really getting outside my comfort zone of coaching sprints in track and field or being a track and field coach. Was able to go out and start working with baseball players, lacrosse players, basketball players, football players, track athletes, really just kind of go out there and learn a lot from all these different athletes and their programming and their coaches that they have at college, and now they're back home and need somebody. So that really kind of opened my eyes to being a better sprint coach, being a better coach in general, understanding I'm not coaching to my needs of track and field, I'm coaching to the athletes' needs of their various sports. So that really kind of made me mature a lot as a coach. And then I decided to not go for the 2022 Olympics. I realized how hard it was to break into coaching and to build those relationships and get the trust of the community to buy into me. So I didn't want to put that all behind me and go for another Olympics. I decided to stick around in kind of the Monterey Peninsula and start working with athletes here and continue that. And then now I was fortunate enough to just land the full-time head track and field, cross country and kinesiology instructor position at Monterey Peninsula College. So this is where it really started for me, was here. I learned a lot as a student athlete here at MPC. So I'm happy that we're full circle, and now I can kind of bring all those life experiences and good decisions and bad decisions. I can now bring them all back here for my students.
Quite the journey, Coach. I think I knew, but I didn't know that you were a 3-time Olympian, which is pretty cool. I think you're the first Olympian on the pod. So
perfect. I love it.
Celebrate that. And I want to follow up in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I threw a lot at you.
You did. But I think what I want to know in this moment is, when you arrived at Carmel as the head track and field coach, and when you arrived last year, for the listeners, you just got the full-time gig this year, but you were part-time head coach last year at MPC. Being the head coach of a team, and in your case now 2 teams, you got a fall and a spring. What did you figure out initially in Carmel that you needed to figure out to be a head coach? And then how has that since shifted in this new iteration of yourself? What's the growth that has happened? That was like, I kind of botched this at Carmel, but this time I was able to hopefully get it right.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, because I was just coming out of being an athlete at the Olympic level, we are very selfish. It is all about me. It is all about, how do I get there? How do I do this? How do I do that? You cut out a lot of the giving side of things because you are so focused on that one opportunity for so long that you can't be derailed on your focus. And getting to Carmel, I really took the 180 of, nothing is about me here. Everything that I'm here now to do is to give these kids every opportunity to be successful in their sport, whether it's winning a championship or just having them hit a lifetime best. We wanted to celebrate those 2 things equally. And that wasn't necessarily hard for me, but I found myself filling all of my time with coaching because I was terrified of, you'll hear athletes talk about that post-athletic career depression, and that terrified me. That was they say don't make your identity an athlete because it's going to end. That's so much easier said than done. It's my identity was an athlete. My identity was coming home and, hey, that's the Olympic bobsledder over there. That's, let's let's talk about the Olympics. Let's do, let's have all that fun. And now that was all gone. And after an Olympic Games, there is that kind of that rush. You come home, there's about 2 weeks of everyone wants to talk to you, the interviews, the having all this kind of fun experience on top of the world. And then one day it all ends. It doesn't just slowly trickle out, it just ends. And that's where that depression starts. So I really filled all of my time with coaching around the clock. During the pandemic, I was on the field at 5 a.m. and I wasn't leaving until 7 p.m. because I had to stay busy. I didn't want any time to sit there and question myself, what if? I didn't want any of that. And I didn't realize how I was spreading myself so thin. I thought I was just grinding. I thought this is the grind that everyone talks about. This is it. I'm doing it. I didn't realize how detrimental that was to my energy I was able to put in towards the end of that. And so now what I've kind of changed now was that pandemic year, I don't know if I would have made it all the way through as passionate as I am and how I coach. The first year was easy. It was new. Everyone knew me. We were kind of grinding. We were having a lot of success. The following year, I didn't know if I was going to be able to maintain that with now I'm still coaching around the clock. And so what I've kind of done now is I'll still have some personal clients here and there, but I try to do it less of a business and more of a come here, let's train, let's have some fun and try to take it more of a, let me just spill some knowledge on you. I'm not out there totally programming and doing 6-8 week programs and stuff like that. Let's just go out to the field, have some fun. Let's get you in better shape than you are when you got here. But I'm not going to sit there and take on a completely new team. And so that's really what I've worked on now. So I can bring that passion and that energy and all that stuff that I expect from my athletes. I want to always either match them or be higher than them. I want to always bring more energy than they bring. They will never sit there and be like, all right, coach is down today. No, they're always like, yo, coach needs to calm down. That's what I want this to be. And I always want it to be that way. And that's kind of where I'm always going to be shifting. That's the biggest thing I've kind of found out for the last Carmel to here.
Okay. So you went somewhere I didn't expect, which is the piece of identity and how you show up in a space. And since you did, I'll ask this follow-up before circling back to where I want to go, which is, how do you make the shift as essentially a pro athlete, right? The Olympics are amateur, but
amateur.
Not.
We're amateur in a paycheck.
Correct. But essentially you're a pro athlete and your identity is wrapped up as you described. But talking to some other friends of mine that have been professional athletes, the thing we always land on is how do you make the shift from, hi, I'm Nick Cunningham, I'm a bobsledder, to, hi, I'm Nick Cunningham, I happen to bobsled or I happen to coach, right? Versus, no, this is my identity versus this is my job. This is what I do, right? How do you make that shift? What advice do you have for others going through that same deal based on your own experience?
So for me, I was fortunate enough to come into coaching.
And really quickly, Nick, the reason I'm asking that is even if they don't make it to the level you did, as high school athletes, their careers are coming to an end, right? So how do you make that shift?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me was I was fortunate enough to get into coaching. That was really a big piece for me, that I didn't feel like I was totally losing my identity. I was making a shift. And I really leaned on those athletes that have also made that shift and went into the professional world. I really needed to stay in that space, and I needed that adrenaline of the competition. We're going 95 miles an hour down a hill with no brakes, no seat belts, and hoping it works out. So that adrenaline rush, I needed to find a way to fill that void of that. And that's competition for me. So, I mean, a lot of athletes that's why they like CrossFit. That's like, they like all these different, they like golf because they're always trying to learn new stuff. And it's always a competitive edge. And for me, I was able to get into coaching and track, especially there's so many ways to find success in track. It's not just winning the final championship. We had 85 kids. I have 85 opportunities every single week to now watch them try and perform at their very best and get to celebrate those moments. I get to be there and cheer them on or pick them up. And that was big for me. And I knew I was going to be okay when I started to celebrate their successes more than I really ever celebrated my own. My own, I just expected it, and I didn't give myself the proper, all right, I need to be jazzed up for this. If I won a race, or if I had a good training run or had a good training day, it was just expected. I didn't get excited. Here, if we go out and my slowest girl on the JV team, who will never score a point for us ever in the history of competition, if she has a good race and sets a lifetime best, we get to celebrate. Like, we don't have to celebrate her winning the race just to celebrate. Like, we get to celebrate that moment. And that's what I really focused on, those small things that really kind of got me through, because that's what gave me that adrenaline rush. It got me to enjoy those small moments and actually come back and really helped me get through it.
If we go back to the coaching piece, and you think about Golden handing you the keys to the program at Carmel, what did you realize you were completely and utterly unprepared to deal with? Not that you didn't have the ability as a human being to get there, but just in that moment of, oh, I thought I was just going to go out here and coach the runs and the jumps. Like, I have to do all of this too.
Yes.
Anything that jumps into your mind there? And again, same question as you think about that when you transition from high school to college.
Again, I was, as a bobsled pilot, as a driver, I'm in charge of my equipment, my sled, my toolbox, my sandpaper, all that stuff, and my 4, maybe 5 guys. That's it. So I understood the budgeting, the people management. I understood it on a bigger scale. The athletes are now Olympians. The equipment now costs $250,000, and we're flying all over Europe and driving all over there and racing other Olympic teams. Coming into Carmel, I luckily had support. So my big thing was Tammy Waldman. She's kind of in that front office, and I got to give her a shout because she is every coach's she's every coach's best friend in there. She was really big on, I went into the office every single day, whether I had to be in there or not. I stopped by her office just so she never had to track me down. If there's ever something she needed, or that small communication piece, I wanted to see her before she had to come find me. And that way, Golden, the AD, never had to come find me either. I never wanted him to ever have to, I never wanted to take him out of his office to come search for me down on the track. That's not a head coach's ideal situation. So anything to make their lives easier made my life easier. But to go and now have 85 kids on this team, and that means 85 different sets of issues, 85 uniforms. You have 85 kids that have to sign in and sign out to get on the bus and entered into meets. 85, and everyone has 4 events. That's a lot of stuff to get right on the computer. And so a lot of that stuff you don't see kind of behind the scenes. And really finding ways to do that kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared those first couple meets to go through that and understand all the bylaws and who gets to do what events, and how do we know you can't go home with your parents because you didn't sign out, no, you didn't fill this out, and all those little things that you have at high school. Luckily, we don't have as much of that here. But coming into this after a pandemic, I only had 18 people on my team. So not only did we not have a massive team, I was able to kind of get into this on a much smaller scale, give a lot more personal attention, let them start to see my standards, my philosophies, and they really bought into that early. And so now that we just went out and recruited 33 athletes coming in, we're going to more than double our team. Now we get to lay down that foundation that was built last year. Now we can kind of build upon that and start to make little pieces, put those little pieces of the puzzle all together.
All right. So you brought up the word standards a second ago. And one of the things I generally ask is, what's the best thing you do in your program that you take with you to the next spot, right? So you just had a chance to do that from hell as the Olympic development coach to Carmel to now at Monterey Peninsula College. Can you identify what that is in a way that it's almost an offering to other coaches? Like, hey, this is really good. And if you can knock this one out, solve a lot of your problems.
For me, I really am a true believer in leading by example. I never want my athletes to ever wonder if I'm bought in, and I never want them to ever have to, he's just not motivated anymore. I think he's just kind of over this. And we've all encountered coaches that just clearly have been in a role for too long where they've kind of lost that passion. It's become a job. And for me is really focusing on the fun of it, really kind of getting the ideas that I'm a track and field and cross country coach. Like, I don't get paid enough. Nobody gets paid enough to stress over this. And so I'm going to enjoy this and every moment that it brings me all day, every day. And that's what I've really kind of done, is to answer that question. It's all about who you surround yourself with is a big piece of the puzzle. If you surround yourself with people that make you want to be better, that's only going to create a better situation. The athletes, no matter the age of the athletes are extremely smart people that can read coaches like a book. And so if the coaches have problems, the coaches aren't all kind of on the same page, it's not going to work, and it's going to create a crack in the armor, and it's going to create a divide. I have been able to surround myself at Carmel. I worked really hard at surrounding myself with some of the best people I could, in that situation. It's very hard at the high school level to find great coaches. But I was very, very fortunate to have a great pool of coaches around me. And that's why we were so successful that first year. It had nothing to do with me. I mean, I'm not creating new crazy philosophies in the coaching world and, doing PhDs in force development and physics. I'm doing stuff that's been tried and true and just understand how to do it, at what works for us. But it's really the people that I've surrounded myself with as an assistant coaches and my staff. That's what I did here. That's what kind of we've never been able to have here in the past, that I was really adamant on, is I'm not going to start recruiting until I have a staff around me that I can sell. And that's why all these athletes have bought into this program, because they now see what we have. We have my hurdles coach was actually my hurdles coach when I was a freshman in high school. His demeanor, his vibe, he is a guy that will calm you down in any situation. He is one of my favorite guys. He was a long and triple jumper over at Alisal. He actually still holds the long jump record at Hartnell College from 1970. And he was a long and triple jumper at University of Arizona. So he's been up there, he's done it. And another coach that I have that I really was big on grabbing was Coach Evan Petrovic. Mm-hmm. Him and I, he was from King City. When I was at Carmel, he was down there at King City as the head coach, and we were battling it out for championships. We were trying to beat each other in dual meets and championships. And so when I saw that he was here helping with the football program, he was a guy I had to bring in here. He's a guy that I had to have with me in this capacity. And I don't really see any of my coaches as assistants. We're all co-heads. Like, we all have a seat at the table. I brought them in here because I value their opinions. I value what they want to bring. We don't see eye to eye on absolutely every training philosophy, but that's good. They make me want to learn why they think that's here, and makes me actually have to verbalize why I think my way is better. And so we actually have found out that we're actually trying to say the same thing. It's just different ways. And so I've been able to build this staff up, have my distance coach is fresh out of Cal State Monterey Bay. Distance athlete over there. He's one of the captains of the team. So young, learning coaching. So we get to kind of break him into our system and learn at this level. So we are just super fortunate to have that. And that's really what my biggest piece to that success is surround yourself with people that make you want to be better.
Yeah. And get the right people on the bus, right?
Yes. Get the right people on the bus.
That's
it.
That's the secret sauce there from Coach Cunningham, right? Best thing you can do to impact culture is to get the right people as part of your staff,
yes,
part of your team, and it starts there. So let's go here, since you are a multi-sport guy. As you've wandered around on this vagabond journey of yours, what have you learned watching other teams, other coaches, that you have borrowed, air quotes if you're not watching the video, to enhance your own program? Meaning, hey, I watched this at a basketball practice and we're doing something very similar at track as a result of that. I think often we don't look across disciplines to enhance our ability to teach. And I'm curious what you've learned in that space.
One thing that really sticks out to me is usually a go-to compliment for me was when I played football. Before the game, we were getting yelled at. Halftime, we're getting yelled at. Post game, we're getting yelled at. And and throughout the entire game, we're getting yelled at. So
football is fascinating that way, isn't it?
Right?
I think it's the sport where the coaches feel they have the most verbal impact ever on the game from the sideline.
We did a whole week of game planning, and then we're going to change everything at halftime and have no time to practice it. We're just going to be like, this is going to work. Yeah. And so that's what I was prepared for when I took over and started to help out at Carmel High. And, anyone that's ever coached against Carmel knows that Coach Anderson is a very vocal coach on the sidelines. And what I really, really respect about Coach Anderson is at halftime, it's not a shark attack. It's not a come in there, have every defense is in this here, offense. It's not chaos. There's enough stress through the game. Pause, take a mental break. At the end of the game, whether we win by 50 or lose by 50, something that really stuck out to me is everything that's said at the end of a game is positive. Win or lose, it is always positive. And one thing that he said that, again, I'm prepared to just be in this room with just yelling all over the place. One thing he says, like, they're always going to be harder on themselves than we can ever be on them. So what's the point? And so he's so good at creating that win or lose, we're gonna leave here in a better light, and we're gonna get ready for Monday. Monday's gonna come. And I really kind of took that with all my coaching, where I was so hard on myself as an athlete that if I lost a race or if I lost a competition, I beat myself up. Like it killed me. Even if I was watching my alma mater, Boise State, lose a football game, like it hurt me inside. Like it physically hurt me. And I realized, like, I can't dwell on that stuff. Like, it's over, it's done. There's no sense to dwell. So for me to be able to see that side of it, to where I can actually, okay, you know what, the world's not ending. Like, let's regroup. Let's actually focus on the positives, and let's get better from here. And so, that's after our meets, we'll all get together and we'll talk about, what went well, what can we improve on, and how are we going to implement the improvements moving forward. So it's not we're just going to wear this loss and get nothing out of it. Win or lose, we're going to learn something leaving this competition. So I really respected that, and that's something that I've really implemented into my coaching.
Love it. Let's pivot to the other side of this. So as a high level athlete, as a growing coach, I don't know that we're in a place of how has your approach changed over the years? You've kind of touched on a few things, but I am curious if there are any failures that stand out for you that maybe have been transformational in what you do now.
I think a lot of my failures, I've been really, really fortunate as a coach. I mean, I have been able to come in and just be surrounded by phenomenal athletes, kind of through it all that truly make me look really good. So I really, I really appreciate all those athletes, kind of buying into the system and working for me. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've learned has really come from me as an athlete, how I approached my coaches, how if a coach talked to me and I shut down, why did I shut down? Why did I act like that? So now really a lot of my stuff is my failures as an athlete are how I'm kind of running my coaching. I'm still less than 4 years out from competition. I had 1 year where I went back and I slid for a season on one of the lower circuits. So less than 4 years out as an athlete, trying to navigate this professional coaching world, and frankly, trying to get these athletes prepared to go to the next level or be successful in whatever they do. And so I try to really build on my failures and show that it didn't really, I mean, me going and failing, quote unquote, at UC Santa Barbara, me leaving UCSB, where I came back to the junior college level, I thought that I was a failure. I thought that was it. I was a bounce back guy. I'm now walking into a class, I'm the highest of highs, going against Division I talent week in, week out, doing just fine. I mean, I was winning races. I was, all conference, was having a lot of fun. Academically, I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared to walk into a 900-person lecture hall and take notes on 3 movie screens from a person that literally does not know I exist. And so there's no emails, and I wasn't prepared for that. And so that's why I came back here. And now I'm walking into classes already thinking I'm a failure. I was like, I don't want anyone to see me. I don't want anyone to know that I'm here. Luckily, this is before social media. So I was like, I don't want to know this is happening. And this is where I really learned that failure became my future success here. I learned how to study. I learned how to note take. I learned how to be an actual student athlete and that time management and all that stuff. And I took that when I eventually transferred to Boise State. Everything skyrocketed, grades, my overall experience, because I was actually enjoying going to class and being a part of the academic side of things. I wasn't just an athlete. I was now a student athlete there, to the point where I became a TA my senior year, because I enjoyed being in the classroom and kind of having that opportunity. And little things like that all the way through my career has really helped me grow and overcome that adversity. I mean, one of my really, really good friends, Lolo Jones, who was an Olympic hurdler, I mean, her entire life is surrounded by hitting that second to last hurdle at the 2008 Olympics, from an Olympic gold to nothing. And so hearing her story, she lost an Olympic gold medal. Me leaving UCSB to come back to MPC to then go off to another D1, not that big of a deal. My failure, everyone's failures are the worst possible thing on the planet until you start to see what other people are actually going through and starting to actually broaden your horizons and talk to people. And so that's why I really try to talk to as many people as possible to, 1, keep it into perspective, 2, see what is going on out in the world, but also being able to build on those resources. I mean, we had Lolo talk to my team last year via Zoom, and I mean, she talked about everything from poverty to that hitting the hurdle to racism to, I mean, those are 3 very big topics in the world. Not hitting the hurdle might not be the biggest topic in the world, but it's definitely a talking point. And she, I mean, really brought it back to earth. Like, and she still doesn't think that she has humongous issues. She's like, I hit a hurdle and I lost a gold medal. Would life have been a little bit different, a little bit easier if I hadn't? Absolutely. But are people having bigger issues than me? 100%. So it's definitely a cool thing to have those opportunities.
Yeah, no, I appreciate how you wrap that into it, because I think in the moment you making that decision to come home was probably pretty.
My life was over. It was
Absolutely.
everything
Yeah.
I worked for had now been for nothing.
But if you look back and you reverse engineer it, I would say that that is almost fully responsible for you being where you are now.
100%. This is coming back here set me up for success. Not just the stuff I learned here, I took it to Boise State and I thrived there. I wasn't at UCSB. I was hanging on, keep my head above water, trying. I mean, it's not like I wasn't. It's not like I was partying every weekend and not going to class and not doing homework. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to take notes. I didn't know how to study for a test. I just tried to memorize everything. And coming back here, I learned all that stuff on a much smaller, cheaper scale, which was a lot nicer financially. And then I was able to go to Boise State and thrive, both academically and athletically, and then take that time management and understanding how I need to approach certain things and how to take notes. Because at the Olympics, you're taking notes about tracks and about facilities, and we're having to do all this. I was able to take all the stuff I learned here all the way through, and it's coming back and having that failure set me up for like you said, every success I've had was because of that one failure.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the perspective that you offered and that Lolo offered you, if people going through those moments can, to your football analogy, take a breath, see it for what it could be, not for what it is in that moment, there are huge opportunities that come from those setbacks. And so appreciate that share. And it leads me to wonder, as you coach, actually, hell, as you go through life, what is something that you have most recently changed your mind on your own personal journey, which is, I used to believe X, and now I believe Y here, and here's why. I have shifted from where I was entrenched over here, dug into, actually, now I'm over here.
See, that's hard, because I feel like there could be 1,000 little things. I mean, as any coach that's ever done it, it's small little pieces. I'm sure I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, that was a better one, or so.
Well, let me make it easier for you. Let's not make it about coaching. Let's just take a beat and think about what's the most recent thing in your life that you've changed your mind on.
I would say the little things. I am a big believer in goal setting, big believer. And I really didn't understand the importance of writing those things down and seeing them and having my goals in my face every single day. I needed that. And something that it's very easy to put goals off if you don't see them. A goal without a plan is a wish. We've all kind of heard that analogy, and I truly believe it, because I've wished a lot of things, but my goals that I wrote down actually happened. And I've been more fortunate than a lot, and it's because I kind of prepared myself. If I wouldn't have worked on my master's degree, I don't get this job. No matter how much I wanted it, I wouldn't have gotten it. And or how qualified I wasn't going to get it. So I truly believe on those little things. You got to set yourself up for success, but you have to actually work at things. Miracles don't always happen. You have to put yourself in the right position for good things to happen. And that comes with that goal setting piece. Is between the 2014 and 2018 Olympics, I was going to get my master's. And I had it written down, and that's what I did. I didn't give myself an option to get out of it. I have my quote unquote bucket list. I have things that I want to do. And that's been oddly been able to cross off some pretty wild things on that list that seem to be so no way, shape, or form realistic. But I've been able to do stuff, whether it's written down, but it's just, again, putting yourself in position to have these opportunities and talking to different people and building those relationships. But it all stems from just writing things down, writing down your goals.
Love it. I like that you mentioned how the difference in achieving what you put down versus things you've thought about, but you haven't committed to. I think that's gold. I also, since you brought it up, I'm going to put a pin in it for anybody that's listening as a coach. If you are considering getting an advanced degree, the answer is yes.
Yes.
100%. 100% yes. It's not even a question.
No.
Even if you don't think it's going to matter, there's going to come a time where it is going to be on a piece of paper as either a job requirement or a preferred accomplishment. So
absolutely.
yes,
I really do. I have to, I'm going to plug Ohio University in there, because one of the things that they allowed me to do was really work at my own pace. It's a 2-year program. It's a master's in recreation and sports sciences with an emphasis in athletic coaching education. And so it's right what I wanted to do. It's about program management, risk management, conflict management, program design, all kinds of stuff like that on just how to be a better coach and administrator. And the fact that it was online, I was in Europe, writing these papers and doing this stuff. And it was easy because I wanted to do it. I knew I wanted to learn the stuff. I'm with other coaches. It's not just you by yourself. You're in these cohorts that are now learning from other coaches. And in my group, one time we had a rodeo coach from Wyoming, a cheerleading coach from Florida, myself, which was at the time a bobsledder, still sliding, bobsled athlete, couple high school football coaches, softball coaches. And we all start to see these parallels across our programs. And how did you deal with this? How did you work through this? How did this happen? How did you get through that risk management? So it was a cool experience to now build these relationships that I now have with these coaches across the country that I would never have met. So it's not just you diving into a book by yourself, trying to be self-started. You have a lot of other coaches to go through, and I cannot talk highly about the program enough. And it's not just that one. I'm sure there's a bunch out there for a bunch of different things, but the advanced education, the smartest thing I ever did as a coach trying to make it through the ranks.
Yeah, let's wrap up with that, because I think it's a great way to go out. And I want to just also pin what you said. In addition to the advanced degree, it was more about the network you were surrounded with that you still tap into to this day.
Absolutely.
Which is available to all coaches out there if you're willing to reach out and meet people.
Yeah. It's looking at the coaches we just have on the peninsula and the resources that are out there and their connections is unbelievable. I mean, just build a rapport with all your different coaches within leagues in the area and whatnot. You're going to now have a web across the country of different coaches, different resources, sports psychologists, physical therapists. I have parents reaching out about, we're in Hawaii and do you know any doctors here? It's like, well, actually I do, go figure. And so you start to build this big web of resources, and it makes going out and meeting these coaches and understanding it so much more fun. It makes the job more fun. You get to now work with a bunch of your friends and colleagues, and frankly, it's just going to make you a better coach because you do learn something from absolutely everybody.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here today. I appreciate
it, Coach.
We're going to talk soon in person here.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.